right, everyone, welcome back to our Star Wars breakdown of all of the shows that were events announced during the most recent Investors event. This is definitely our most anticipated one to do. I know there's plenty of other ones out there, but we wanted to make sure we shared our 2 cents on the Obi Wan Kenobi show that was given some joyous announcements and a little bit more information that leads to some questions. So we're going to have some fun with this one today. Now, Obi Wan Kenobi, the TV show, was confirmed to take place 10 years after the dramatic, to use Kathleen Kennedy's words, events of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. Now, one of actually maybe the most exciting piece of information is that Hayden Christensen will be returning to reprise his role as Darth Vader. Now, I think I might have literally screamed and ran outside of my room. There's a chance that
Wow.
happened. No, I'm pretty sure that happened, yeah. But Hayden Christensen is coming back, which I know so many people have been asking for Hayden Christensen to come back. In fact, it felt that the Obi-Wan Kenobi series would not be complete if it didn't have his return. And I know we've been able to share some beautiful messages, some beautiful sentiments shared by both Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen about having the opportunity to reprise their roles and work together. And, just from that alone, that's been some of the, just some of the most beautiful things coming out of Star Wars. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, it's hitting me on all the feels. It's beautiful.
For sure. So Cody has some, I guess, pretty important things. During the investors meeting, Kathleen Kennedy did point out some important facts, like the ones I've already explained. Um, and Cody has a little bit more because there was some sequences that were not revealed to everyone. So if you did a little bit of digging, you might have been able to find some other things that were shown during about a 2 minute interlude when people who weren't invested literally in Disney were not able to see. So take that away.
Yeah, let's dive into kind of some of the things that as not being investors, we're sitting there going, okay, let's see this first look, but we
Yeah,
don't
we were
get to
just
see it. What the heck? We're
screaming.
just sitting here for 2 minutes, yeah, screaming and crying. So, um, okay, let's see, where are we at here? Get a description of what they saw. Okay. Um, It's clear that Hayden Christensen will play more than a cameo in the series. This is all coming from Stars Newsnet, by the way. Um, and his presence as Darth Vader is going to be pretty integral to the plot. That was basically the gist of what people got to see in the behind this or the first look. They actually got to see Hayden, who said it was such an incredible journey playing Anakin Skywalker. Of course, Anakin and Obi-Wan weren't on the greatest of terms when we last saw them. It will be interesting to see what an amazing director like Deborah Chow has in store for us all. I'm excited to work with you, and again, it feels good to be back. So that's Hayden Christensen's thoughts. Would have loved to see him deliver that quote, but he's
100%.
obviously just wasn't received very well as Anakin by a lot of people. But
Right.
I think the love that he's been shown in
Hmm.
recent years, um, as the prequels have gained more popularity with younger generations, I think it makes him feel excited to be back. So it's awesome.
Hmm.
Um, okay, the conflict between the two former friends plays a major role in the series, as the footage for investors clearly showed. Here's what they saw. There's a hunger for this character to come back, McGregor said. Um, the fans have been waiting for long enough. Deborah Chow added, "This is quite a dark time that we're coming into with him, Kenobi, just being a Jedi. It's not safe. There's Jedi hunters out there." So that was kind of an interesting plug in there. Whether they're
Hmm.
talking, I mean, obviously that kind of sounds like we're talking about Inquisitors, things like that.
Right.
Concept art showed an unknown Jedi, their lightsaber blade ignited, defending a trio of younglings as Darth Vader marches on the Jedi Temple with a legion of clone troopers in a scene that kind of was obviously similar to Revenge of the Sith. McGregor says he has this one task left, which is to keep Luke safe. More concept art revealed a stingray like creature floating above slave workers toiling away in the barren landscapes of Tatooine. So we start on Tatooine and we go on a rollicking adventure, says McGregor. The image then changes to a watery planet
Mm.
where soldiers firing upon a many armed sea creature. So we're obviously getting some sort of watery planet. Obi-Wan's leaving Tatooine. That's a huge kind of like
Right.
what? Um,
Definitely interesting.
let's see. We couldn't tell the story of Obi Wan Kenobi without addressing Anakin or Vader, Chow said, over an image of armored Darth Vader seated on a throne, communicating with an unidentified hologram. The most
Hmm.
beautiful thing of all of this is it's brought me back together with Hayden, McGregor says. It'll be amazing to bring those characters back together again very unexpectedly. Um, Sorry,
Right.
there's just so much good in this. I'm almost done. Um, Chow said audiences will definitely see Obi Wan and Darth Vader get into it again, and the concept art confirmed this as there was a blue blade and a hooded Obi Wan clashed with a fiery red blade of Darth Vader. Having another swing at each other might be quite satisfying for everybody, McGregor said. We hope that you
Right.
enjoy it as much as we're going to enjoy making it. Um, that's basically what we got to, what we didn't get to see,
What we didn't get
but
to see,
people who are very rich and have invested money into Disney did get to
for
see,
sure.
which is just so much to unpack. Like I don't even know where to start with that, so I'll let you. Whatever
Let me do
strikes
it.
you, you can go ahead.
Here you go. Good luck. I
There's
can't do it. It's your job. What? But
there's
I
so
did
much.
think this is an important part. JW, Andrew Kesh were actually talking that with Hayden coming back, that does lead an important concept. Hayden Christensen doesn't voice Darth Vader. Hayden Christensen as Darth Vader is completely pointless. In fact, they had to build him a special suit for Revenge of the Sith
Right, because he
because
wasn't tall enough.
he wasn't tall enough to actually play Darth Vader. So it was actually kind of fun. Instead of bringing someone in to quick do that, they actually built a suit specifically for Hayden, which is super cool
Because Hayden wanted to do it.
because Hayden wanted to.
Right?
Because I mean, if you were Darth Vader, you'd better freaking
Yeah,
finish the job.
get to be Darth Vader.
So Hayden Christensen coming back means absolutely nothing unless we're going to see Anakin, which
Yeah.
I know is something that Cody and I are actually mostly leaning towards and guessing. Now, I think the easiest way to unpack this is to talk about what Cody and I have anticipated and have guessed the Obi Wan Kenobi show will talk about. And we'll point out how that relates to the different concepts that we've heard about and, some of the differing opinions we have with maybe some of the other Star Wars writers out there. So, I know a huge part of what Cody and I's wishes and hopes for this comes from the concept of PTSD for Obi Wan Kenobi. Obi Wan Kenobi has to have PTSD. There's no possible way he doesn't. His entire life has been absolute garbage, just to begin with. I mean, from a young age, he watched his master die. He then begrudgingly kind of took on someone who he viewed as his replacement, and did the best he could to train someone who had the highest of expectations, and honestly, kind of being questioned continuously for his object. I mean, he wasn't, the best master out there, but he also wasn't probably like the most supported by the order, right? The girl he's probably loved in Satine dies in his arms. His arch nemesis comes back and is a complete and utter tool. His best friend betrays him. He has to go fight his best friend, who he just watched kill one of their closest friends, and he finds out his best friend's wife, and then, you know, decide whether or not to kill him or leave him for dead or die himself, right? These are just some of the things he goes through, and then after all of that, he gets sent to live on a frickin' dust rock for presumably the remainder of his days. Like, his life is trash.
Yeah.
And that's what makes Obi Wan Kenobi, I think, the best Jedi, is how much he just took what came, right?
Endures.
Right? But he has
Yeah.
PTSD. He has to have these issues. He has to have nightmares. I don't think any day goes by that Obi Wan Kenobi isn't going, should I have killed Anakin, right? Did I do the right thing? Uh, all of these questions, right? And I know Cody's depth. I'm gonna let Cody talk about this part because it's from a book that we've both read, but it's Cody's favorite Star Wars book, so he gets to talk about it. But there's definitely got to be a point where Obi Wan Kenobi realizes, because when he leaves Mustafar, he has to believe, I did my job. Vader's dead, right? So there has to be a moment of that for him where it's not. And I think before that, he's still going to be like, did I do the right thing, right?
Yeah.
And after that, he's still going to be going, crap, did I do the right thing? Maybe just the other way.
Yeah. So the idea that that he thinks Anakin's dead when he leaves Mustafar. He thinks, we we don't really get to see that conversation with Yoda, but we can assume that he told Yoda, "Yeah, I killed him." You know, at some point he's gonna have to find out that
Hmm.
he didn't. And well, the book that Logan's referencing, uh, Star Wars, it's a Legends book, Dark Lord or something, The Rise of Darth Vader, I think is what it's called.
Sounds
Um,
correct.
there's an awesome scene
Hmm.
where Obi Wan is at the cantina on Tatooine, and I want to say it's over some sort of radio or
The
hologram type of
HoloNet.
thing. HoloNet. There you go. There you go. He hears them talking about how Vader is, and I can't remember the exact wording, but basically from just listening, he finds out Vader's still alive, and he's just like, "Wait, what? Like, I killed him. Like, how is that even possible?" And so that's how he finds out. Now, the Obi Wan show is 10 years after
Hmm.
Revenge of the Sith, so he's not finding out on year 10. So the
Probably
only
not.
way
No.
we're gonna, yeah, the only way we're gonna get that scene, which I'm praying for, because that would be so cool and
Hmm.
emotional to see you and have to make that reaction of finding out, wait, he's not dead.
Right.
I hope they do a little prologue, right? Like a little, they start off the very opening scene as him chilling right after he dropped Luke and Leia off, or a couple days afterwards. Sorry, Luke off at
Drops Leia
Peru,
off
and
there too. Wait, what?
yeah, no,
Man, this
yeah.
show movie really
Um,
changed.
right after that, he's at the cantina. I hope we get that scene and he finds out and he's just like, oh crap, like what the heck,
Right.
it's all, and then it starts messing with him. And then you get the title sequence, Obi Wan Kenobi, and then we're 10 years in the future. That's my hope,
Right.
because I think that'd be freaking awesome. And I think that that's an important thing to address.
For
Um,
sure.
we got to remember the characters don't know everything that we know. We obviously know Anakin didn't die because we got to see Sidious put him into the suit, but
Hmm.
Obi Wan doesn't know that, and so it would be very interesting. And
For
he
sure.
knows in episode 4 he says Vader is more machine than man now. So some reason, some way he found that
He
out.
definitely knows. Right.
Yeah. So he found out that, and he somehow found out that his suit. I mean, obviously he could assume. I mean, I chopped
Right.
half of his body into pieces, so he's
He's like
obviously more machine than man.
logically
But
definitely
right.
has
But it'd
left
be
leg, right
interesting
leg. I only left
to
his
find
already
out that.
hand that already was cut off, so statistically
Yeah.
speaking. But no,
Yeah.
I
He's got.
think I think you're like totally right, and we've talked about this concept more than anything. I know Cody and I have, but if he goes there, right, when he leaves, we did a whole podcast actually talking about Obi-Wan's mental state, fighting Anakin, and that end right there. Like, did he do the right thing? Right? Was he bad? Was he good? What was that? All of that about. But I think at the end of the day, after he drops Luke off, and he goes home, I think he has to sit there and go, did I kill Anakin too early? Because I can't believe he doesn't believe Vader's dead, right? And that is an important distinction. He does know that Vader is Anakin, so if he heard like on the radio like Darth Vader, well, introducing Darth Vader, the Empire's best soldier out here making sure that the galaxy is safe, right? Some really bad propaganda, right? He would recognize Darth Vader as Anakin because he saw Anakin embrace the title as Vader in the hologram. Important note, but
Yeah.
he has to be thinking, did I do the right thing? Should I have really killed Anakin? Maybe Anakin could have come back, right? He has to be thinking that, and he's like, no, okay. And then he's probably going, did I screw my best friend by like letting him die like that? Should I have killed him instead of just leaving him to die? Like and he's got to be so beat up about that. And I would imagine we know Obi Wan has kind of been an alcoholic his entire life, right? And
Where are
that's
you going
kind of a fun
for a
joke.
drink?
Kind of a fun joke. Talking about George Lucas's alcoholism. That's always often kind of been pointed out to be a similarity of the two. But like I can imagine he spends like he wakes up having a nightmare seeing Anakin, and that's where I wanted to see Hayden Christensen more than anything. Is I would love to see a duel of Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor fighting each other. I want to see Episode 3 again in a nightmare vision, right?
Yeah.
And there's a super super cool scene that was in the book, right? So not canon, but was theoretically filmed, but was cut out due to the fact that it didn't quite flow. And you can actually still see remnants of it because there's an air currently existing in the fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin. If you look, there's at one point where they're on the tables, right? Kind of lightsabers at each other, and Obi-Wan is for a second holding Anakin's lightsaber,
Yeah.
right? So there's a super cool scene and a super cool move. Then the book, when they're fighting, Obi-Wan uses the Force to manipulate Anakin's mechanical arm, and Anakin drops his lightsaber. And Obi-Wan catches it, pulls them both up, straight up just like Dooku, both lightsabers on Anakin's neck. Just like Anakin had Count Dooku 2 hours earlier in the film. And Obi-Wan can't do it. So he like stops. And of course Anakin's trying to murder Obi-Wan, so he takes advantage of the situation. They're able to fight each other, and the fight continues. So I would love to see something like that, and I'd love to see it not take place how it actually did, right? To see like Anakin taunting him, like, "Do it, you're just gonna leave me for dead anyways," or things like that, right? You never loved me, and Obi-Wan wake up in a cold sweat, right? Because he has PTSD, he has to have nightmares, and he walks into the bar, he sits there trying to drown his sorrows, and lo and behold, the HoloNet turns on, and we see that scene. That's how I would love more than anything
That'd
the
be awesome.
first 10 minutes of Obi-Wan show to start, right? Oh my
I
gosh,
love
that'd
it.
be insane. And I think Kathleen Kennedy, she points out that this will be the rematch of the century. So there's definitely going to be some sort of
Yeah,
fighting, and I'm
absolutely.
hoping in flashbacks and nightmares versus actual head-to-head fights, because I'm definitely part of that group that doesn't think they should meet in person and fight. Um,
Yeah,
and I know we've talked about that, and I think there's a ton of possibility for them not to have a head-to-head fight in this show while still remaining enemies and still having grandiose battles and still going at each other, right?
yeah. Um, Along with the nightmares, I think there's a lot of well, a lot of the concept art that people got to see was things like, well, one of the things they said is Vader marching in on the younglings in the Jedi Temple.
Right.
Um, Obi-Wan mentions that he saw holograms of Anakin killing younglings. We didn't really
Hmm.
see that particularly in the film, that exact scene, right? We saw him fighting some people.
Holding up that one dude like in a chokehold.
Right,
That's
right.
so cool, actually.
Yeah. And so Obi-Wan has a lot of these things ingrained into his mind, that
Right.
images that you would never want to see your best friend or brother doing. And
Hmm.
so I think that when they say some of that concept art could be from some of Obi-Wan's nightmares as well. Um, so we might get to relive Order 66 in some weird ways too, like that. The other thing is that who's to say we don't get some nightmares of Vader's as well?
Right.
Um, they mentioned that Vader was sitting on a throne talking to someone on a hologram. So it makes me think we'll get some shots
Hmm.
of Vader without Obi-Wan in them, and we might get to see kind of what's going on in his head a little bit too, which could be kind of fun. Um,
I do think it'd be cool if they're kind of like two separate entities fighting against each other, but not necessarily. I mean, Obi-Wan would know he's
More
fighting the
mentally,
Empire and most likely dealing with Vader's problems, and Vader would probably guess, he's just fighting Jedi out there, right? But more of like indirectly affecting each other, right? So you're seeing Vader manipulating stuff, right? And I do think you brought up a cool point because is it canon or is it legends? Too confusing. There's too many cool stories about these two at this time period that is legends and canon that it gets confusing. But like there was a thing that Vader would constantly have nightmares about the sequence, about challenging Obi-Wan and specifically the flip,
hmm
right? And he would have
yeah, that's
nightmares.
actually canon in
Okay, it's
comics.
still canon. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So like he has nightmares
the
about the
Vader
sequence
comics.
too, just differently because he knows he failed and not killing Obi-Wan, right?
Right.
So there's all these different things where he's thinking about ways he could have done it differently. How could he have beat Obi-Wan in this situation? Why was he foolish? Why was da, 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 da. And he relives this fight from the concept of I was the loser. How could I have won? Right? So that would be kind of interesting to see them both have
Yeah,
nightmares of the same fight
but in different,
in
right?
different
Obviously
perspectives or
different
different sequences
perspective.
of
Yeah,
this same fight.
yeah, absolutely. Um, hmm. Another thing too that's interesting is that Ewan mentions that his main goal, and he understands that Obi-Wan's main goal is to keep Luke safe.
Right.
Um, and so that's why it's kind of weird, I think, that in everyone's head, like we have all been under the impression that Obi-Wan never left Tatooine for 19 years. Um, and so that's why it's kind of weird to think, no, he's definitely leaving Tatooine, and that's kind of confirmed almost at this point. So, um,
I wonder how much it has to
I
be
mean,
confirmed versus
I guess that's true.
if the story, if it's taking place where Vader and we're almost viewing like Vader and Obi-Wan as like two protagonists against each other. All the Vader could go in all these sequences. Vader could be hunting down Jedi, right? We know
Yeah.
there's clearly this option, maybe. Vader could be fighting other Jedi, and Obi Wan could be dealing with
Yeah.
Jedi hunters, but not necessarily leaving Tatooine. But
It's
I do
true.
think there's a good chance he might jaunt off Tatooine.
Yeah. Um, my thought though, for sure, whether they go, if he
Mm-hmm.
does leave Tatooine, I think it's still gonna be in the concept or the idea of trying to keep Luke safe.
Mm.
You know, like it'd be interesting if like I don't know, somehow he gets wind that the Empire's on to like has some sort of reason to come to Tatooine, and so he has to deal with that issue so that they won't come or whatever. I don't know, but
I just had
um,
like the same thought with like you mentioned Jedi
yeah,
hunters, right? Something that we didn't get to see. What if Obi Wan catches wind that there's Jedi hunters out patrolling Tatooine? What's the easiest way to draw huge attention? Actually, have them find a Jedi. So he just has to leak some information to some
yeah,
dude at a canteen that there's a Jedi on. I don't know, like Nar Shaddaa. That's pretty close to Tatooine, right? Just a
yeah,
nearby planet, right? And they go to that planet. Obi Wan handles all that and goes back to Tatooine to guard Luke.
yeah. That'd be cool. Or maybe a probe droid or something spots Obi Wan,
Mm-hmm.
and he ends up having to track it off of Tatooine so that the word doesn't get back.
Ooh, there you
You
go.
know, and so he has to try and hunt them down before they get back to the Empire. Maybe it's an Inquisitor or something.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. But yeah. So there's a million options. Um, Trying to think of some of the other things. The rematch of the century, we should probably talk about that. Uh, I know you're kind of mentioned that you were in the side of not wanting them to fight face to face.
Mm-hmm.
I think, uh, you know, Dark Side Cave on Dagobah kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
where Luke fights Vader. I think you
Right.
could have something like that, where, Obi Wan, I don't know, feels like he's really fighting him, and we get to see a cool sequence, but he's not. Force visions, things like that.
I wonder if they
Um,
could like fight each other like Rey and Kylo, something like that.
wow, yeah,
I mean, that was
some
definitely
sort of
different
force
with the dyad
bond,
sort of thing,
dyad
but
thing.
if they
That'd be
both
interesting.
reached out to each other to have like one less conversation, something like that would be kind of cool. If
That would be
maybe
very interesting.
more of like maybe be like more of a battle of wills than actual lightsaber dueling. I did
Well,
want to
because
mention
Obi,
JW pointed out though that Luke could totally run away from Tatooine, right?
that's
And
fair.
then and Obi-Wan could go up to Owen and be like, "Hey, I'll bring him back. Don't worry. I'll keep an eye on him. I'll follow him and I'll bring him back home." Right?
That's cool. That's a good point. I like that. JW in the chat with some clutch ideas.
For sure.
Um, Ewan McGregor said this: "It'll be amazing to bring those characters back together again,
Hmm.
very unexpectedly." That was
Right.
his words.
I thought that was an interesting setup. That's not like they walked into each other at the mall, right? Actually, that might be the most unexpected option. They're both inside a cantina. Oh sh!
Obi Wan, let's
Obi-Wan.
just agree that we never
Anakin?
saw each other, okay?
Bye.
Um, yeah, and then unexpectedly almost makes you like wonder if like they're
That
not
just makes me
always like
like kind of
against each
believe like
other. I don't know.
they
I
can't
don't know.
like be teammates. They freaking team
No,
up.
I know, but like, what if Obi Wan's undercover or something? And I
Pulls
don't
out
know.
his
It just
blue
sounds stupid.
lightsaber, and Vader goes, "Wait,
Never.
what?"
I don't know. I don't freaking know, but
But
there's
no,
just so many good things to explore here.
I do think they're
I
gonna
don't know.
do an exciting job. I do think there's definitely room for air in this one, maybe more so than any
Yeah,
other TV show.
gotta be
So
careful with it.
I do think there needs to be like maybe three big things. I think there needs to be a legendary fight. I
It's
think,
one way or the other.
yeah, regardless of what it is. It could be Nightmare, it could be Rehash, it could be whatever. I do think that people need to believe that Luke is safe. That Obi-Wan never abandoned Luke, because I think that's a huge part to a lot of people.
Right.
I know there's a line in from a certain point of view when Obi-Wan's talking to Qui-Gon Jinn right after Owen and Beru are killed. He mentions how he hasn't been a Jedi Knight in like 19 years. So I thought that was kind of an interesting point, as I feel like he's like been
Hmm.
more watching, waiting to become a Jedi Knight again, and now he's finally getting the opportunity. So I thought, to me, I feel like I mean, but then again, books are quickly retconned, so that's not a definite thing.
Yeah. Um.
But
well, talking to Qui Gon's another big thing, right? That
Hmm.
that I think I would love to see in this show.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Uh,
And of course, I
great
think the biggest thing
opportunity
is
to,
you have to see, I think, Anakin, not Vader. You have to
yeah.
see Anakin, and I don't know what that's gonna be. I know I saw a
What about?
cool what you go.
Well, no, no, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I don't know.
Um,
There's just so many
I was
thoughts
just
on this
gonna
show.
say, yeah, that's how I'm at, and I'm scattered at this point. But um, I think flashbacks would be awesome, and
Hmm.
if you could get a Clone Wars flashback just with a shot of Anakin, Obi Wan, and then Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka,
That'd be pretty
all
cool.
three together, just in a flashback, in a memory, whether it's a Vader memory, whether it's an Obi Wan memory, um, that would be like the shot of the century, all
Yeah,
three in live action.
like a big group hug.
Well, because you never get to see all three of them together in live action because
True,
Ahsoka
because
only
she didn't
existed in
exist. Yeah,
cartoons. So yeah, it's like that would
that'd be
just
pretty
be a great
freaking cool.
opportunity. It doesn't have to be long, but
Right.
that'd be awesome.
I was thinking. I know this. I mean, I'm such on this concept of nightmares messing with Obi Wan because I think it's such an integral part. But I would love to see like what you're saying. Like it'd be so cool. Let's say all three of them are together, right? They're having a big hug or whatever, and Anakin. And then it cuts to another thing where Obi Wan and Anakin are off to a thing, and maybe it's a dream where Anakin's, or Obi Wan's helping Anakin get to safety, or maybe it's one of the 9 times that um, Anakin saved Obi Wan,
Saved Obi Wan's life.
right? And then something like that, and but instead of showing exactly how it happens, it twists, and Anakin reacts as Vader with the knowledge of who he's going to become, right? Obi Wan's
Yeah.
like, "Hey, leave me," and he's like, "You're right. You're just going to leave me anyways later," or something like that. Something,
Ugh,
right? Something like that would be
chills.
so cool. Obviously terrifying, but like I think there's so many cool options for it. And I mean, it's exciting because they've just started filming, so there's no specific release date right now. Um, Again, we don't really have release dates for a lot of these things, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to mimic the Andor series, which is coming out in 2022, just being with similar filming
Yeah.
setups. So that wouldn't surprise me if you would see it in 2022. But I mean, there's just so much time for so many things to change, right?
Yeah. Which is nerve wracking, like what
Right.
could change between now and then. And I mean, they obviously did almost completely redid scripts for it. So, like,
Right, because they
the writing
scrapped
and
it.
stuff they weren't
They were just
happy
like,
with. And
nope. And I think that's so cool that they went, hold on, if we screw this up, we're this is not going to go well, right?
they
So
need to
they're
take this
taking
very
they've taken
seriously.
time, right, to make sure that they're taking this seriously and doing a great job. So there's definitely, I think, a lot to look forward to. I know there's so many people are playing with so much cool concept art. There's comics coming out that people have read that other people haven't gotten to see. I know there was like one, I think it's a comic, one thing where Obi Wan and Anakin are having this talk on Mustafar, right? And Anakin's like, "You should have killed me, right?" So Obi Wan picks him up. He's like, would this have been better?" And like throws him in the lava, right? But then Darth Vader comes out in the ironclad suit, and he's like, "Yes, it would have," type of deal. And it's I think in that comic it's supposed to be how Vader realizes how Vader's able to shut off Anakin, is he's able to see the lava as a complete and utter rebirth to where Anakin dies and Vader comes back and Vader's born. So I think like I don't know, there's so many cool things, right, that could be done. You could see these
It could be
sequences,
incorporated.
right, that you've always wanted to see before. Things can be added on from the past. I mean, it's going to be I think it has so much potential to be good. There'll definitely be a few big things to watch for to see like overall, you know, but I think holistically it's going to be a very exciting TV show.
And just filled with nostalgia for prequel fans, right?
For sure. I mean, there's a lot of good shows, but I definitely don't think I'm wrong in saying that this is the most anticipated and probably most important show, at least for a lot of the fans.
Absolutely. It's the one everyone was actually asking
Right.
for, right? So
If you want to use that exactly.
yeah. So
Hmm. So
well,
that's our thoughts on the Obi Wan Kenobi show, and I'm sure we're gonna have another podcast about that one specifically, especially as more details are announced, and we will be of course, keeping you up to date on our pages, so make sure to stay tuned for that.